Hello, my wonderfully drowsy time travelers, my fellow lovers of slow-moving history and stories that melt your mind into dreams. Before we begin our journey to the distant past, I'd like to ask you a small favor. These sleepy stories help you drift off. Consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us create more content to lull restless minds to sleep. And if you're feeling extra cozy, leave us a comment. Tell us how long you lasted before dozing off. We love reading your experiences. Now, find your most comfortable position. Let your eyelids grow heavy and allow my voice to guide you into relaxation. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast, untouched wilderness. The sun is rising slowly, and the air is cool. Thin strands of mist curl and drift around your ankles. There are no roads, no signs, no buildings, only the endless hush of wind moving through dry grass. Your hands are rough, cracked, covered in dust. You feel hunger like a slow burn creeping up from your belly, a hunger that pulls at your thoughts. You are awake thousands of years before the first pyramid stone was laid, long before writing, or cities, or kings. You are living in the Stone Age. There is no breakfast waiting, no bread, no warm drink, no bowl of fruit left out on a table, just earth and time, and the question every living thing asks with every sunrise. What will I eat today? You begin to walk, bare feet pressing into the damp soil. The air is sharp with the scent of wild things, sap and bark, rotten wood, faint traces of animal musk in the breeze. You come across a small patch of green, leaves low to the ground, shiny, strange. Could they be food? You crouch down, touch the stem. It weeps a milky sap, and something deep in your mind, some instinct, whispers, no. But that whisper wasn't always heard. Many tried, many failed, because in the Stone Age, food did not come with labels or expiration dates. There were no rules, only trial, and often tragedy. Even a single mistake, a single route mistaken for another. Som sill a single route mistaken for another could be the last. Some plants looked harmless, gentle, even, but inside their leaves lurks the slow poison of alkaloids, invisible, bitter, silent. A bite, then a cramp, a shiver, a spreading numbness, and finally stillness. Others tasted sweet, even delicious, but left the heart fluttering, breath short, eyes unfocused. There were berries that swelled the tongue, seeds that burned like fire, fungi that blurred dreams with waking. And still, people searched, because they had to. Imagine you find a patch of mushrooms, soft and pale. You nibble the edge. The taste is strange, but not awful. And then, hours later, your thoughts begin to twist. The trees move in impossible ways. Your skin grows cold, and the ground feels as though it's floating beneath you. You would not have known which fungus was food and which was a curse. Even water was a gamble. A stream might sparkle in the sun, but carry parasites, microscopic threats that bloat the stomach and bend the bones. Still waters may hide bacteria, invisible, lethal, dart. Some drank from these pools, only to grow weak, feverish, gone. And yet they learned, slowly, painfully, with each generation whispering warnings into the next. That root, it kills the liver. This nut, it cracks the teeth. That flower, it calls spirits that never leave. The wild was a library without language, and humans were learning to read it with their lives. Meat was no safer. A rotting carcass might tempt the hungry. The smell of protein, of fat drawn, almost intoxicating. But decay sets in quickly. Invisible colonies of bacteria begin their feast long before you, and their leftovers can paralyze the gut, stop the heart. Yet sometimes there was no choice. Starvation was its own death. So the earliest people learned to test, to smell being, to watch the animals. If the birds wouldn't touch it, perhaps it wasn't meant for teeth. And still, mistakes were made. Some tried boiling roots to remove toxins. Others buried seeds for days, fermented them, softened their sting. But even fire didn't guarantee safety. Meat not cooked through, fish left too long in the sun, bone marrow left exposed to insects could carry unseen dangers. The Stone Age stomach was a battlefield, and the warriors were tired. To live, you had to eat. To eat, you had to guess. And guessing was always a risk. This trial and error gave rise to knowledge, but it was hard earned. Every safe meal was built upon countless lost ones. And when we think today of the massive pyramids rising from the desert, stones stacked with divine precision, we forget something. The hands that built them once reached for roots in the dark, once crouched by muddy streams, cupping water with trembling fingers, once followed flocks and shadows, hoping for a fallen egg or a nest they could steal from. The builders of wonders were once the eaters of accidents, but this knowledge, this painful, slow-won understanding of food, of survival, would one day allow them to gather, to settle, to farm, to build, and one stone would follow another, patiently, faithfully, until something unimaginable rose from the earth. But we are not there yet. No, tonight we rest among the hungry wanderers. We feel the wind in the grass, the cold in our bellies, the ache of not knowing. And soon, very soon, we will begin to trace the long, winding path that led from foraging hands to hands that lifted limestone. That path, brick by brick, will be waiting in our next chapter. For now, sleep, dear traveler. Sleep beneath the stars that watch the first stones fall into place. Sleep where the desert winds first whispered to the dreamers of monuments. And let your thoughts drift to pyramids not yet built, but already imagined. Good night, and until next time, sleep well, and let your thoughts drift to pyramids not yet built, but already imagined. Good night, and until next time, sleep well. But you're still here, aren't you? Still drifting softly on the edge of thought, and that's just fine, because the journey isn't over, not even close. So let us pick up the thread exactly where we left it, among early humans, hungry, curious, wandering still. But something is shifting now. You feel it, like a low, ancient drum beat beneath your feet, a rhythm of change, because not every place was equal. Some riverbanks offered more than others. Some lands fed better, and when hunger eased, people stopped moving. They stayed, and with stillness came watching. The Nile was one of those places, gentle and generous. When it flooded, it left behind black soil, rich, sticky, alive with promise. That soil became memory, seasonal, predictable. The people began to notice. They began to plant grain, not much at first, but enough to matter. And that changed everything. For the first time, food didn't only come from luck or instinct, came from patience, from putting a seed into the ground and waiting, trusting, watering, then harvesting, storing, grinding. The taste of freshly crushed Emma wheat, warm and nutty, with the smell of toasted husk, a new kind of comfort, a softness that the raw wild had never given. And now, with food in jars, bellies grew full, and with full bellies, time opened its hand. Time to look around, to wonder, to shape. Simple homes rose, mud brick walls, thick and cool. They pressed earth with earth, layer upon layer. A rhythm began. One brick, then another, then another. It felt familiar. The hands that once searched for berries now shaped walls, now arranged stones, now turned their attention upward. And in this stillness, a new hunger emerged, not for food, but for meaning. The sky grew larger, the sun more sacred, the cycles of flood and dry season felt like breath itself, a cosmic inhale and exhale. They saw patterns everywhere, in stars, in rivers, in death. The dead too became something sacred. They deserved more than a shallow grave. They needed homes, even in the afterlife, so they built tombs, low at first, on simple mounds, then stacked stones, one upon another, until something new stood against the sky. A mastaba, flat, roofed, sturdy, a resting place. But ambition, like a flame, does not sit still, and somewhere in the breathless hush of ancient Egypt, a mind wondered, what if it reached higher? What if a tomb could touch the sun? And so it began. The first pyramid was not perfect. It grew in stages, step by step, layer by layer, a stacked dream, stone atop stone, reaching upward toward Ra. The step pyramid of Djoser, built around 2660 BCE, long before Giza, long before the polished faces and golden tips. It was new and strange and marvelous. But how could they move such heavy blocks? How could they carve stone with no steel, no modern tool, no machines? The truth is softer than myth and slower. Each limestone block was carved by hand using copper chisels, wooden mallets, stone hammers. The copper wore down quickly, needed constant sharpening over hard fires. With bellows and sand, the quarries echoed with slow, hollow sounds. Strike, chip, bite, pause. Strike, chip, bite, breathe. Dust coated the skin. It stung the eyes, got into every crease, but still they carved. Limestone was easier, soft when freshly cut, only hardened with time and air. And when a block was free, it was not lifted. Not yet. Instead, it was rolled or dragged on wooden sled across wet sand. Yes, they wet the sand. Modern experiments show that this small act halved the friction, letting sleds glide rather than grind. Some stones were floated along the Nile when waters were high. Barges creaked, sails swelled, and stone drifted like a sleeping whale. On land, they built ramps, long ones, packed with clay and gravel, sometimes spiraling upward, sometimes straight. Ropes, pullers, call and response chants, a human orchestra. Lift, haul, do, rest, and again. We think of slaves, but most evidence says otherwise. The workers were skilled, respected, fed well. They lived nearby, in modest homes, with bakeries, breweries, places to rest. Graffiti carved into hidden stones speaks not of chains, but of pride. Friends of Khufu, drunkards of Menkaure, little jokes, little glimpses of people at work, not just monuments. And always the bricks rose, each one placed by hand, by eye, by rhythm, a slow breath of architecture, a human heartbeat in stone. The Great Pyramid took around 20 years and used over 2 million blocks. Some weigh as little as 2 tons, some as much as 80. Each one touched, tested, placed. No mortar between them, just weight and skill and patience. Inside, narrow shafts wind and descend, chambers hidden, passages angled to stars, a tomb, founder, a message. We do not know, but the stones remain, unmoved by time, unafraid of wind. They sing without sound, a lullaby of effort. And as you lie here, breathing slowly, think of this. Every pyramid began with a single rock, lifted by calloused fingers, guided by dusty hands. There was no secret, only time and belief in the sacred, in the cycle, in the afterlife, in the meaning of shape. A triangle rooted in earth, pointed toward eternity. And though the kings have crumbled, though the desert has shifted, the pyramids remain, because they were not only monuments to rulers, they were stories etched in stone about what we value, about what we can do when we build together. But this story is not yet done, because there is still mystery, still speculation, still questions. Next time, we'll step inside, deeper, into the heart of the pyramid, where darkness reigns and theories bloom. We will feel the weight of granite above us, trace the shafts aimed at Orion, whisper among the burial chambers, and ask, was it only a tomb, or something more? But that is for another night. For now, rest your thoughts, let the dust of the past settle, and listen to the silence between stones. Sleep well, traveler, you've earned it. And listen to the silence between stones. Sleep well, traveler, you've earned it. But the desert never sleeps for long, and neither do the questions. They wait, still as stone, buried beneath sand and time. And so we return, slowly, softly, descending into the dark, not into night, but into the pyramid itself. Let us go inside. The outer world fades behind us, the blinding sun, the whispering wind, the noise of living. Here it is still, cool, but heavy. The air has weight. It presses gently against your skin, smells faintly of dust and stone, of a passage narrows, slopes downward, polished limestone beneath your fingers, worn smooth by centuries of touch. Each step takes us deeper into the heart of something not just built, but believed. This is not a house. Not a palace, not a fortress. It is a vessel, a bridge between worlds, between the seen and the unseen. We pass the descending passage, low, cramped, too small to stand upright. It angles deep beneath the surface, down to a chamber carved directly into the bedrock, a place unfinished, rough, cool, empty. Why is it here? Why so deep? Some say it was the original burial chamber, abandoned. Others believe it was symbolic, a journey into the underworld, a descent before rising. But no one knows, not for certain. And in this place, uncertainty feels like truth. Now we climb up a steep, narrow shaft, the ascending passage. Stone walls rise on either side, too close, too silent, as if the pyramid itself is holding its breath. We reach the grand gallery, and here we pause. Let your eyes rise. The ceiling slopes high above you, corbelled, layered inward, step by step, until it meets at a narrow peak. It feels impossibly tall, and yet it was made by hand. Each block placed, measured, balanced. The gallery is long, 43 meters, and lined with shallow ledges. For what? We do not know. Some believe they supported beams, used to slide the sarcophagus upward. Others say they had spiritual meaning or acoustic purpose. The sound of your breath here echoes strangely, longer, hollow. The acoustics of this space are unlike any other in ancient Egypt. They make your thoughts feel distant, like they're coming from the walls themselves. At the end of the gallery, a small doorway. We step through and enter the king's chamber. It is not large, not ornate, not golden, just stone. Red granite blocks from Aswan, hundreds of miles south. Each one transported, dragged, floated, lifted. They line the floor, the walls, the ceiling, solid, immovable. The ember hums with stillness, as if it remembers something that no one else does. At the far end, a box, no carvings, no decoration, just a large open sarcophagus, also granite, also empty, not a single trace of a mummy, no bones, no remains, no treasures, just space. This has puzzled scholars for centuries. Was the king never buried here? Was the tomb robbed? Or was it never truly meant for a body? Was it Mansui, a chamber for energy, for starlight, for ritual? The ceiling is a marvel. Above the chamber, 5 granite slabs, laid one atop the other, each separated by a small chamber called relieving chambers. Their purpose? To absorb the weight of the stone above, to keep the ceiling below from collapsing. But some believe there's more. The highest chamber was discovered much later. Its walls bear marks, red ochre symbols, mason's marks, the name of Khufu. Some call this proof that he was the builder, the owner. Others are not convinced. They say the marks could be forgeries, additions, made to close the question, but refuses to sleep. And then there are the shafts, two narrow openings, angled with precision, leading from the king's chamber outward. They do not align with sunlight or wind. They align with stars, specifically with Orion's belt and with Sirius, the stars of Osiris, and Isis, the god of the dead, and the goddess of magic. To the ancient Egyptians, these stars were not distant. They were destinations. Perhaps the shafts were tunnels for the soul, pathways for the spirit of the king to rise and join the gods. Or perhaps they served some purpose we no longer understand, not spiritual, but energetic. Some believe the pyramid focused energy like a machine, like a beacon, or a harmonizer. They speak of electromagnetic anomalies, strange magnetic reading, heat signatures that don't match the structure. But here, we do not chase theories. We simply listen to the quiet, because the truth, whatever it is, lies in the stillness. The pyramid holds many mysteries, and many more have been lost. We do not know how the casing stones were placed so precisely. We do not know how they were lifted hundreds of feet into the air. We do not know what guided the builders to align the sides within a fraction of a degree to true north. Was it just skill, or something more? Theories drift like desert sand, pulleys, levers, internal ramps, sonic levitation, but the stones remain quiet. They do not confirm. They do not deny. They simply stand, year after year, century after century, watching, waiting. Now, let us step back, out from the chamber, out from the gallery, back through the narrow passageways, back into the sunlight. The desert greets you, bright, deep, endless, but you are changed. You have felt the weight of stone, the breath of granite, the heartbeat of something ancient, and it lingers, because the pyramid is not just a monument, is a mirror, a reflection of our need to reach, to last, to rise. Each stone is a thought, a question, a hope. Each step upward, a refusal to be forgotten. We built these shapes to hold our dreams, our fears, our kings, our gods, and perhaps ourselves. But even now, there is more to explore. More chambers, more theories, more uncharted rooms beneath the sand. A mysterious void was detected above the grand gallery, a space the size of an airplane, invisible to the eye, but present in scans. What lies there, we do not know, not yet, but one day, perhaps we will, and maybe the pyramid will speak again, in echoes, in symbols, in silence. But for now, it sleeps, and so should you. Let your thoughts drift, like dust in golden light. Let your breath slow, like the Nile at dusk. And know this, the hands that built the pyramids were not gods, nor giants, nor aliens. They were people, hungry, hopeful, dreaming, brick by brick, stone by stone. They reached upward, not just to bury a king, but to tell a story, one we are still trying to understand, one that whispers softly across time. Good night, traveler. May your dreams be quiet and your wonder never end. Elian remained motionless, breath shallow, as the whisper of Ezekiel's words wrapped around him like the coils of an ancient serpent stirring from eternal sleep. Every syllable carried the weight of ages, not merely words, but echoes of truth suppressed across millennia. The codices of the watchers glowed dimly now, as though resting after revealing what was permitted. Yet their presence pulsed still, like embers in sacred ash. Ezekiel paced slowly, his robe trailing faint motes of light across the crystalline floor. The watchers did not fall, Elian. They descended. Alien's eyes widened. They descended by choice, not rebellion. They brought knowledge to a species not yet ready to wield it. That was their sin. They taught the weaving of root and stone, the song of the stars. But who bound them? Elian asked, his voice nearly a whisper. Ezekiel paused before an obsidian column, its surface engraved with spirals that seemed to recede infinitely inward. The archons. The word. He had heard it before. Whispers in forbidden texts, fragments in banned gospels. Now it stood before him like a shadow cast across the cosmos. The archons are not deities, Ezekiel said slowly, but regulators of form, engineers of the illusion. They forged the veil, the great divide between the seen and the unseen. They cannot create life. And humanity? Elian asked, heart pounding. Humanity is not their creation. You are far older. You are echoes of the one flame. But the archons placed your light within vessels, bound spirit to clay, and to keep the illusion intact. The chamber dimmed as if in mourning. A low resonance stirred the stone, as though even the architecture remembered what had been lost. Ezekiel turned, his eyes reflecting the cosmos itself. The Book of Enoch, the Gnostic scriptures, the Hermetic scrolls, all were warnings, and yet all were buried. Elian's mind reeled. But why keep it hidden? Because a sleeping species obeys. Ezekiel answered, and awakening is rebellion. They walked deeper into the sanctum, down spiral stairs carved into time-worn jade. As they descended, walls gave way to living stone, not etched, but grown, like bone, around a sacred womb. There is a chamber, Ezekiel said, below all history, where the last flame of memory burns. It is known as the Hollow Archive. The name stirred something in Elian. He could not place it, as though a dream from another lifetime hovered just beyond recognition. It holds the final records of the eons, Ezekiel said. Before the archons scattered the divine sparks across dimensions, it is the memory of what you were and what you still are. They reached a massive circular door, framed by serpents, swallowing their tails symbols of eternal return. At its center, a single sigil pulsed, a six-pointed star overlaid with a spiral, guarded by a downward-pointing triangle. It was not a keyhole, but a resonance gate. Ezekiel extended his hand and sang. The sound, low, harmonic, older than language, vibrated into Elian's marrow. The symbol lit, and the gate dissolved like mist at dawn. Inside, a vast library opened before them, not of books, but of living memory. Columns of light hovered, flickering with the essence of stories not written, but remembered. These are the codices of becoming, Ezekiel said, each a soul's true name. Elian stepped forward. One of the columns pulsed. It drifted toward him, flickering like a flame, whispering, not with sound, but sensation, the pain of forgetting, the joy of reunion, the weight of lifetimes. He touched it. In an instant, he was no longer alien. He was fire, wind, song, and stardust. He was a builder of worlds, a speaker of light. He stood before the council of the eons, bearing witness to the fall of Sophia, the fragmentation of the Pleroma, the birth of the Demiurge, the false god who declared himself alone. He felt Sophia's grief, her longing to reunite creation with Source, and then the shattering. He fell through dimensions, through myths, through flesh, and became Elian once more, a seeker in a world that had forgotten its own light. He gasped, stumbling back as the codex drifted away, content. Ezekiel watched silently. You remember now. Elian nodded, tears trailing down his face. I am not what I thought I was. No one is, Ezekiel said gently. But those who remember have a duty. Elian looked around. The hollow archive stretched endlessly in all directions. Each codex a potential flame waiting to be touched, to be remembered. And what must I do? Ezekiel raised his hand, and a golden thread appeared between them, vibrating with unseen music. You must walk the path of rekindling. You must awaken others. Elian grasped the thread. It burned and soothed all at once, but the archons will resist. They already do, Ezekiel said. They whisper through doctrine. They distort truth with fear. They drown memory in noise. But even they cannot extinguish what burns in silence. A distant rumble echoed through the chamber, as though something had noticed them. Ezekiel's face grew grave. We must leave. The hollow archive is not beyond their reach. Not anymore. As they ascended the jade stairs, the chamber behind them slowly dimmed, its sigils retracting, returning to slumber. At the top, the golden chamber waited, but now the murals had changed. The watchers no longer stood bound. They walked among people, cloaked in starlight, and at the center, a figure held a golden thread aloft, connecting soul to soul. star to star. It was Elian. He turned to Ezekiel. Why do I see myself? Ezekiel smiled. Because time does not flow here. You are already becoming what you seek. And with that, the mural shifted again, this time showing a city of stone and light, rising beyond a broken veil. The sky was not black, but full of shifting auroras, memories returning. Ezekiel placed a hand on his shoulder. The next gate opens in the waking world. You must return. Elian felt the pull, the weight of flesh, the call of time. The codex still flickered within him. When I wake, he began, uncertain. You will doubt, Ezekiel said. But the flame will remain. The chamber dissolved. Elian awoke, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. He lay beneath the twisted boughs of an ancient tree. Moonlight casting long shadows across the earth. In his hand, something warm pulsed softly, a golden thread. He sat up slowly. The world around him was the same, and yet not. Every tree hummed with memory. Every breeze carried a forgotten hymn. The veil was thin now, and the watchers were not gone. They were waiting. The sphere was silent, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of deep presence, the kind that surrounds old trees, resting mountains and still waters at dusk. As Elian stood among the floating orbs, a gentle vibration settled into his chest. It was not alarming. It was the feeling of something ancient, recognizing something newly reawakened. One of the orbs drew near, turning slowly, as if considering him. Inside it, a scene unfolded, soft and translucent, not shown through light, but felt through the skin of the soul. There was a garden, not the one told in sacred texts, not the Eden of punishment or exile, but a quiet world that breathed in rhythm with stars. Trees rose like songs, their leaves humming in golden frequencies. Rivers ran like memories, winding not through land, but through thought. He saw forms there gentle, luminous, not quite human, but not unfamiliar. They tended the garden not with tools, but with presence. Simply by being, they caused harmony to grow. And above them, the sky did not end. It folded upward into layers, realms stacked like dreams inside a sleeping god. Then, the vision deepened. He saw a moment, a shift, a silence that was not natural, a stillness that did not belong. Something had entered, not evil, but disruption, not corruption, but curiosity, a vibration foreign to the garden's design. It did not come with teeth or flame. It came with questions. Why should we not touch the tree that speaks in silence? Why should we not remember what we are? That question, soft as breath, echoed in the roots of the garden, and something opened. The orb dimmed, floating away. Another approached. This time, Elian did not brace himself. He simply breathed. He was shown a tower tall, but not made of stone. It was a construct of agreement, formed by thought, sustained by collective will. Inside, many voices gathered, some from stars, some from soil, There was no hierarchy, no command, only harmony. But then, an interruption again, a single thought, too loud. We can ascend alone. That thought cracked the base, and from the fracture came light, sharp and fractured, falling down into lower realms, not as punishment, but as necessity. The higher realms could not hold what had chosen separation, so they fell like embers that remembered being flame. When the vision ended, Elian's breathing was slow. The room pulsed softly again, as if aware of his understanding. He was not afraid, only quiet, far above the archives, in a different wing of the sanctum. Soraya sat alone. She had found something, not a relic, not a scroll, a mirror. It was small and old, the glass slightly worn, rimmed in brass, etched with spirals. But it was not her reflection she saw within it. It was another sky purple, heavy with unfamiliar constellations. Stars moved in patterns, singing to one another across impossible distances. And then, slowly, a symbol formed on the glass, the same one Elian had seen on the vault door. The winged eye, the serpent, the Ouroboros, but something else too. A single teardrop falling from the eye's pupil. It shimmered like silver starlight. The mirror warmed in her hands. She heard no voice, but words came into her mind like leaves drifting on water. You are not here to awaken power. You are here to remember silence. She closed her eyes, holding the mirror close. Below, Elian walked through the final door in the sphere chamber. It led to a long corridor of dim amber light, walls lined with carvings that seemed to ripple as he passed. Not visually, but energetically, like memories waking up after a long sleep. Here, there were no floating orbs, no radiant glyphs, only walls and footsteps, his own. But then he heard another, a soft echo behind him. He turned, but saw no one, and he did not feel alone. The corridor ended in a small circular space. In its center stood a pedestal. Upon it, a single object, a book. It was bound in dark leather, its edges frayed. No title marked its cover, but Elian knew without doubt what it was. Not the Book of Enoch, as men had written. Not the Book of the Dead, as Egypt had carved, but the book before names, the text that all texts echoed, the origin before origins. He reached toward it with care. The moment his fingers touched its surface, the room darkened, not in fear, but in reverence. And then the book opened, not to the first page, but to the center. There, a passage was inscribed in letters that shimmered and shifted, never quite the same when looked at twice. It read, "Before the fall, there was descent, and before descent, there was invitation. You are not cast down, you are called home, through forgetting. Each age writes exile. Each soul remembers return." He read the words again and again. until they settled like dust into his bones. He did not need to turn the page. The words were not to be read, but to be carried far away. The sky turned. A distant star blinked out, not in death, but in travel. It had moved, shifted dimension, folded itself from one story into another. Those who watched the heavens might not notice, but those who listened to dreams, they would feel the change. The time of remembering was beginning, and in quiet corners of forgotten cities, old doors whispered open, dust lifted from sacred shelves, the silence stirred. Not loudly, not suddenly, but like a breath drawn in after a long sleep. The dawn came not with a sudden blaze, but as a slow unfolding, like petals of a distant, unheard flower, opening in rhythm with the deep breath of the earth itself. The desert air, cool and soft, carried whispers of sand, stirred gently by a wind that spoke only to those who dared to listen. Elian sat beneath the spreading arms of an ancient acacia, its bark rough and worn beneath his fingers. Around him, the silence was profound, yet alive. It vibrated with possibility, as if the very ground beneath him pulsed with the memory of a time before time. He closed his eyes and felt the warmth of the sun caress his skin. His breath slow, deepened, becoming one with the slow heartbeat of the land. In this stillness, questions no longer needed answers. They simply rested like stones at the bottom of a clear pool. Yet, even in rest, the weight of knowing stirred quietly. The path forward was not marked by signs or words, but by subtle shifts in perception. The world around Elian seemed to thin layers peeling back like the soft skin of a ripe fruit. Colors softened, sounds softened. Even the passage of time seemed to stretch, linger, fold back upon itself. He rose, moving slowly, as if in a dream. Each step was a conversation with the earth. The rough texture of stone underfoot, the scent of dry grass mingling with a faint trace of jasmine, the distant call of a lone bird, all wove together into a tapestry of sensation. Far ahead, a figure appeared, not solid, but shimmering, a reflection caught between worlds. It did not speak, but its presence was a welcome, a quiet invitation. Elian approached without fear. The figure reached out, and Elian felt a warmth, a pulse, the same pulse he had felt in the archives beneath the sanctum. A bridge formed, not of stone or metal, but of understanding. In this place between moments, memories returned, not his own, but those of countless others who had walked this path before him. He saw hands lifting great stones, each one placed with care and reverence. The grunts of effort softened into a hymn. Sweat mingled with dust, not as toil alone, but as an offering. He felt the rhythm of labor, the slow, deliberate pulse of countless hearts beating in unison beneath the hot sun. Each block was a prayer, each quarry a cathedral, each tool an extension of spirit. The knowledge of the builders came to him not as facts or instructions, but as sensation. The roughness of limestone, the sharp edges of flint tools, the cool rush of Nile water washing away the sweat and dust at day's end. He imagined the sound of thousands of voices humming softly in the quarry, not in chaos, but in harmony, a song not of words, but of breath and bone. And he understood the silent pact. The builders were not slaves, but participants in a sacred act. They reached beyond themselves, beyond the visible world, forging not just monuments, but connections, bridges to eternity. But with creation came vulnerability. Elian felt the tremor of fear, the shadow of doubt. What if the knowledge were lost? What if the flame extinguished? The fragility of memory echoed in the shifting sands. And so the builders embedded secrets, hidden chambers, coded shafts aligned with stars, carvings only understood by those who had the eyes to see. Each stone, each joint was a message, a guardian of wisdom. Elian's steps slowed as he neared a place where earth met sky in perfect stillness. Here, the wind was absent, and the air was thick with anticipation. He knelt and placed his hand upon the ground. The texture was unlike any stone or soil he had felt. It was both solid and alive, humming softly, resonating with the pulse of the stars. In that moment, Elian realized the truth. The pyramids were not just tombs or monuments. They were living prayers, emblems of humanity's reach towards the divine, invitations for the soul to rise. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying with it the faint scent of lotus and myrrh. The sun dipped low, bathing the desert in soft gold. Elian closed his eyes once more. He breathed in the quiet majesty of a world that remembered, and as the stars began to pierce the deepening sky, he whispered a silent vow to carry the flame of memory, to walk the slow path of awakening, to listen to the stones and hear their stories. The night stretched around him like a velvet cloak, and the desert held its breath. Night had fully settled now, its deep velvet darkness, embroidered with the gentle flicker of countless stars, each one a soft heartbeat in the vast stillness of the universe. Elian sat beneath the wide, unyielding sky, the cool earth grounding him as his thoughts wandered in quiet spirals. He imagined the ancient builders, those souls who shaped mountains of stone, not for glory or power, but as a bridge reaching beyond time, beyond flesh, beyond memory itself. The pyramids were not mere monuments. They were songs etched in limestone, carved with breath and patience, whispered across millennia. The stones held stories, not carved in words, but in their very being, heavy, enduring, and patient. Stories that spoke in silence. Elian rose slowly, the cool night air brushing against his skin like a gentle lullaby. He traced his fingers along the weathered surface of a nearby stone, feeling the rough edges, the tiny pits and grooves. Each imperfection was a fingerprint of time, a trace of the hands that had touched it long ago. He closed his eyes, imagining the sound of those hands scraping, lifting, placing, the rhythm of effort, the cadence of breath and song, mingling with the desert wind. The builders moved in harmony, their bodies swaying with the slow dance of stone and sky. Every block placed was a step in a ritual, every effort a prayer. The desert whispered. It told of the risks, the dangers faced by those who toiled, of blistered skin beneath the relentless sun, of sharp stones biting flesh, of uncertain waters that sometimes carried illness. Food was scarce, the work was endless, yet the builders persevered because they understood something we often forget. Creation demands patience, and patience is a kind of strength. Elian felt the weight of centuries settle on his shoulders, not as a burden, but as a mantle. He walked slowly toward the great pyramid's base, his steps muffled by the sand. The structure loomed above him, massive, silent, unyielding, its corners aligned with the stars, its sides facing the points of the compass with perfect precision, a marvel not of accident, but of intention. He reached out and touched the cool stone. It was smooth here, worn by wind and time, yet solid beneath his hand. In that moment, Elian felt the pulse of the pyramid subtle, almost imperceptible, a heartbeat hidden beneath layers of rock and dust, a memory waiting to awaken. Elian sat down again, drawing his knees close. The night sky seemed to lean in, as if eager to share secrets. He remembered the tales whispered in the archives of the Watchers and the Archons, of forgotten knowledge and veils between worlds, of the sacred geometry that connected all things. The pyramid was a map, a map not only of the earth and stars, but of the human spirit, each stone a letter in an unspoken language, each chamber a verse in an endless poem. The builders spoke in silence. They built to remember and to remind. As the hours slipped by, Elian's mind drifted. He saw visions, not clear images, but feelings. The rough hands shaping stone, the steady breath of workers, the quiet hope in tired eyes, the endless dance of light and shadow upon limestone walls. He knew the story was far from over. The stones still held secrets. The stars still watched silently, and somewhere, beyond the veil of sleep and waking, the builders waited, waiting for those who would listen. Elian closed his eyes, his breath slow. The desert night wrapped around him like a soft blanket, and the pyramid whispered its ancient lullaby, a song of patience, a song of time, a song of stone. The dawn crept slowly across the horizon, painting the desert sky in soft hues of rose and amber. The air was cool, still holding the night's hush, as if the world itself hesitated to break the spell woven by the stars. Elian stood at the foot of the great pyramid, the massive stones casting long shadows in the first light. The weight of centuries seemed to settle into the very air, thick with unspoken stories and quiet reverence. He breathed deeply, feeling the dry breeze carry with it the scent of ancient earth, sun-baked and timeless. The texture of sand beneath his feet was rough yet familiar, shifting with each step like a slow, gentle touch. As the sun rose, Elian's mind drifted back to the builders, those unseen hands and weary bodies that had moved stone by stone, brick by brick, with deliberate care. Their world was stark and raw. The desert could be cruel, its heat unforgiving, its nights cold and dark. Food was scarce, water precious. Yet they persevered. Each day was a test of patience and endurance. Each block lifted was a prayer whispered in the language of sweat and hope. The pyramid itself was not simply a tomb or monument, but a living testament. Its very structure was a song of balance, a harmony of earth and sky, man and cosmos. Elian imagined the rhythm of their work, the deep grunt of effort, the scraping sound of chisels against stone, the quiet conversations carried on the wind. The builders were silent architects of eternity, weaving connection through stone. Elian ran his hand along a weathered block, feeling its cold, rough surface. The stone carried the touch of ages. It whispered of mornings bathed in golden light, of evenings wrapped in cool shadows. He closed his eyes and let the silence seep in, heavy and soothing. In this stillness, the true nature of their work revealed itself, not merely to build, but to remember. Remember the rhythm of life itself, the slow pulse of breath, the turning of the stars, the endless dance of time, folding into itself. The pyramid was a mirror, reflecting the sacred geometry that bound the universe, encoded in every corner, every joint, every layer. As Elian stood, the desert around him seemed to breathe with him, alive with memories carried on the wind. He understood, without words, that the builders had been keepers of something profound, not just stone or power, but of connection between worlds, between past and present, between the seen and unseen. The sun climbed higher, warming the earth and lighting the golden sands. Elian took a slow step forward, the pyramid rising above him like a silent guardian. He felt a deep calm settle within a knowing that some mysteries were meant to be approached not with haste, but with reverence, that in the slow unfolding of time, the stones themselves would tell their stories. As the day unfolded, Elian's heart grew lighter. The weight of history was not a burden, but a gift, a quiet invitation to listen, to remember, to awaken. And as the desert wind carried the distant song of stones, Elian whispered into the vastness, "Tell me your stories, ancient ones. Teach me your secrets. Guide me home." No. The pyramid stood silently, bathed in the warm glow of midday sun. Its stones held tight to their secrets, but slowly, softly, their song began to rise. Nightfall settled softly over the desert once again. The air cooled, and the stars stretched wide across the sky, blanketing the earth in a quiet shimmer. Elian sat alone near the great pyramid's base, the ancient stones towering above him like silent sentinels, holding their secrets deep within. The desert around him breathed in gentle waves, carrying the faint scent of distant blossoms. The whisper of soft sand shifting with the breeze. The quiet was thick, but not empty. It held the weight of countless generations, of voices long silenced, yet still alive in the rhythm of the earth. Elian closed his eyes, allowing the calm to seep into his bones, as if the stones themselves were breathing with him. His thoughts drifted to the hands that had shaped these stones, rough, calloused hands, marked by toil and patience, hands that had carried blocks heavy beyond imagining, placing them with reverence, stone by stone, brick by brick. There was a rhythm to their work, a slow, steady pulse that echoed the beating of hearts and the turning of stars. This was not haste, it was devotion. The builders had labored not merely to create a structure, but to capture something eternal, a memory carved in limestone, a prayer whispered through the ages. Elian imagined the sound of the quarry, the soft scraping of chisels, the muted thud of stone settling into place, the murmur of voices weaving ancient songs, sung low. The air had smelled of dust and sweat, mingled with the sharp tang of river water and the faint scent of crushed herbs used to soothe aching muscles. The desert winds had carried these sounds far and wide, as if the land itself listened. But there had been danger, too. The heat could drain the strength from bones. Food was scarce, and water even more so. Many had succumbed to exhaustion or illness, their names forgotten, their sacrifices etched only in the stones they laid. Yet they endured, because in their hearts they carried a spark, a slow, burning flame of hope and faith. Elian's hand rested lightly on a cool stone. It felt alive, not warm, but pulsing softly with a hidden energy. The stone seemed to remember the weight of the hands that had lifted it, the care with which it was placed, the prayers murmured over it. This was more than rock. It was a testament, a silent guardian of forgotten truths. The pyramid stood not only as a monument to kings, but as a bridge between earth and sky, flesh and spirit, time and eternity. Its sides aligned perfectly with the points of the compass, its chambers arranged to catch the rising sun's first light, guiding souls through the cycles of day and night. It was a map, written in stone and shadow, poem without words. Elian breathed deeply, feeling the cool desert night settle around him like a soft shawl. He thought of the watchers, those ancient guides who had brought knowledge, only to be bound by fear and misunderstanding, and of the archons, the shadowy forces that sought to veil the light of truth beneath layers of silence and forgetfulness. Yet the truth persisted, hidden in the geometry of stone, in the rhythm of breath, in the quiet song of the stars. The night deepened. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the scent of myrrh and lotus, ancient aromas that seemed to awaken memories in the very air. Elian closed his eyes and listened. The stones whispered. Their voices were not words, but feelings slow, patient, enduring. They spoke of beginnings and endings, of cycles turning endlessly, of a flame that could never be extinguished. The desert held its breath, and somewhere deep within the pyramid, a secret waited to be remembered. The first light of dawn brushed gently across the desert horizon, softening the edges of shadow and stone. Elian lay beneath a great boulder, its cool surface steady against his back as the world around him slowly stirred from its deep slumber. The air was crisp and still, carrying the faint aroma of earth, warmed by the sun's tentative rays. Somewhere distant, the whisper of a flowing stream mingled with the call of a lone bird awakening. From night's embrace, Elian breathed deeply, feeling the slow rhythm of life pulsing beneath him, beneath the sands, beneath the stones, beneath the very fabric of time. He thought again of the builders, those silent architects who had labored with patience as endless as the desert sky, who had shaped the stones not with haste or pride, but with reverence and quiet purpose. Every block placed was a heartbeat, a pulse in the vast rhythm of creation. Elian's fingers traced the rough surface of a nearby stone, its texture worn smooth by centuries of wind and time. He imagined the hands that had first grasped it, strong, steady, yet tender in their intent. The sun rose higher, casting a warm glow that danced across the pyramid's sharp edges. Its perfect geometry reflected the harmony of the universe itself. The stones held secrets, not written in ink or carved in deep relief, but etched in the very vibration of their being, a silent language of balance and light. Elian closed his eyes and listened. The desert whispered the song of stone, slow, patient, enduring. He remembered the tales of the Watchers, beings who had descended not to conquer, but to teach, who had brought knowledge wrapped in mystery, and yet were bound by the fear of those who misunderstood. The Archons, shadows of control, had woven veils of silence, trying to shroud the light forever. But the light persisted through the geometry of the pyramids, through the alignment of stars and stone, through the slow awakening of memory. Elian rose, feeling the weight of the past settle like a gentle cloak around his shoulders. He walked slowly, each step a meditation, a prayer toward the heart of the pyramid. Inside, the air was cool and still. The walls, carved with ancient symbols, seemed to hum softly with hidden energy. Elian traced the faded glyphs, feeling the pulse beneath the surface, a rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of the earth. He moved deeper into the labyrinth of stone corridors. The light faded, replaced by shadows that danced softly in the flicker of his torch. Each step carried him further into the mystery, into the silent heart of the builder's devotion. A chamber opened before him. Its walls glistened faintly, reflecting a light not of this world. In the center, an altar of stone. Upon it, a single, unmarked slab. Elian approached, heart steady but full of quiet anticipation. He placed his hands upon the slab. A warmth spread through his fingers, up his arms, filling his chest. The pulse grew stronger. The silent song became a chorus. In that moment, Elian felt the merging of past and present, the breath of those who had come before, their hopes, their fears, their faith, all woven into the living stone. The pyramid was not just a monument. It was a vessel, a keeper of memories, a beacon of eternal light. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly. The sun climbed higher, bathing the world in gold. Elian stepped out into the warmth, carrying the silent song within. He knew the journey was far from over. The stones still whispered, the stars still walked, and the flame of memory burned quietly beneath the endless sky. The evening sky was a deep indigo, dotted with faint stars that flickered softly like distant lanterns. The desert's cool breath washed over Elian as he sat quietly beneath the vast expanse of the cosmos, the pyramid standing silently behind him, a timeless guardian watching over the sands. The air was filled with a gentle stillness, a pause that seemed to suspend time itself, allowing the ancient whispers to rise from the stones and seep into the night. Elian closed his eyes, tuning his senses to the subtle song that wove through the darkness, a melody not of sound, but of feeling. He felt the slow, steady pulse beneath the earth, beneath the stones, a rhythm older than memory, older than language. It was the heartbeat of the builders, of those who had shaped the silent stones with hands, guided not only by strength, but by reverence and hope. Elian's thoughts drifted back to the tales preserved in hidden chambers and worn scrolls, stories of the Watchers, luminous beings who had come to share wisdom in shadowed times, their gifts wrapped in mystery, their teachings cloaked in silence, the delicate balance between knowledge and forgetfulness. The pyramid itself was a message, an intricate design etched in stone and shadow, reflecting the sacred geometry of the heavens. Its precise alignment with the stars was no accident. It was a map for souls, a guide through the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Elian traced his fingers along the rough edges of a nearby stone, feeling the cool texture worn smooth by countless hands. He imagined the builders, their faces marked by dust and sun, their bodies moving with quiet determination, the slow, methodical rhythm of their work, a dance in harmony with the earth and sky. The desert around him was alive with stories. The rustling of dry grasses whispered secrets carried on the wind. The distant call of a night bird echoed softly, a reminder of life persisting in stillness. Elian understood that the builders were not mere laborers. They were participants in a sacred ritual weaving connection between the physical and the divine. Every stone laid was a prayer, every joint sealed was an invocation. As the night deepened, Elian felt the veil between worlds thin. Memories long buried stirred beneath the surface. The silent stones began to speak, not in words, but in presence. A quiet invitation to remember, to awaken. The stars above twinkled with ancient light. Elian breathed in the vastness, feeling himself part of a greater whole, a thread woven into the endless tapestry of time. He rose slowly, the desert air cool against his skin. With each step away from the pyramid, he carried its silent song within him, a song of patience, of endurance, of eternal remembrance. The journey was far from over. The stones still held their secrets. The stars still watched silently, and somewhere in the deep quiet, the builders waited, waiting for those who would listen. The night sky stretched wide and endless above Elian, a vast canopy sprinkled with shimmering stars that whispered ancient lullabies. The desert around him was hushed, wrapped in the cool embrace of darkness, yet alive with the soft breath of time. Elian lay back on the warm sand, the grains like tiny memories pressing gently against his skin. He breathed in deeply, the crisp air filling his lungs with the essence of earth and sky entwined. In this profound stillness, the world felt suspended, a fragile moment where past and present blended softly, like colors merging in a twilight sky. He thought again of the stones, silent sentinels standing against the slow erosion of centuries, each one carved, placed, and polished with a care born not of urgency, but of reverence. The builders had been patient souls, their work a meditation, a song in slow rhythm with the pulse of the earth. Elian's fingers brushed the cool surface of a nearby stone, tracing the faint impressions left by ancient hands. He imagined the heat of the sun on their backs, the roughness of rope and wood tools, the sharp edge of flint chisels shaping limestone into perfect blocks. The scent of dust mingled with the faint aroma of crushed herbs used to soothe tired muscles. The pyramid was more than stone and mortar. It was a map not just of land, but of spirit, a guide to the cycles of existence. Its geometry echoed the patterns of stars, rivers, and the human heart. Elian felt the slow unveiling of a secret one, whispered by the desert wind and sung by the silent stones. The builders had not merely erected monuments, they had woven connections, bridges between worlds, invitations to remember. The desert around him hummed softly, a sound like the slow turning of a great wheel. Elian closed his eyes, allowing the rhythm to seep into his soul. He was part of a vast tapestry, threads weaving through time and space, the veil between waking and dreaming thin. He rose gently, stepping toward the horizon, where the first hints of dawn softened the sky. The stones beneath his feet carried the weight of stories untold, stories waiting patiently to be heard. As the sun rose, its golden light spilled over the desert. The pyramid shimmered softly, a beacon of quiet strength. Elian's heart swelled with a gentle certainty. He was not alone. The builder's silent song echoed within him. The journey would continue. The stones would continue to whisper. And beneath the endless sky, the quiet light of remembrance would burn softly, eternally. The desert night had folded gently into dawn, wrapping the world in a soft veil of light. Elian moved slowly beneath the vast sky, each step a quiet conversation with the earth beneath his feet. The air was cool, still heavy with the scent of night blossoms and the faint, distant hum of awakening light. Around him, the pyramid stood majestic and silent, its ancient stones glowing faintly in the morning light. Each block held secrets deeper than words, mysteries whispered through ages by the wind and sun. Elian's breath was slow, steady, matching the eternal rhythm of the world. He thought once more of the builders, the countless hands and hearts that had toiled, not in haste, but with a patient grace that stretched across generations. Their work was not simply construction. It was a sacred ritual, a slow dance with time itself. The stones were their language, each one a letter, each row a verse in a poem written in silence and strength. The desert around him was alive with texture and sound, the rough grit of sand shifting beneath gentle breezes, the distant call of a bird greeting the sun, the faint rustle of dry grass whispering stories carried from long ago. Elian closed his eyes briefly, letting the quiet wash over him, drawing him deeper into the heartbeat of the ancient world. He imagined the first light of dawn reaching across the limestone blocks, casting long shadows that stretched and folded like soft fabric. The warmth of the sun kissed the rough stone, revealing every crease, every carved edge, each a testament to human hands, guided by something greater than mere will. The builders had understood something essential, that to build was to connect earth to sky, flesh to spirit, moment to eternity. Each stone was placed not as a monument to power, but as a bridge between worlds. Their labor was a meditation, a prayer, a promise whispered into the winds of time. Elian's fingers traced the contours of a stone worn smooth by centuries of wind and memory. He felt the pulse beneath the surface, a slow vibration, like the steady beating of a great heart. It was the rhythm of endurance, of faith, of quiet persistence. He remembered the stories of the Watchers and the Archon's beings of light and shadow, whose presence hovered just beyond the veil of human understanding. The knowledge they brought was both gift and burden, wrapped in mystery and silence. The pyramid was a map of that hidden knowledge, its geometry a reflection of the stars, its chambers aligned with celestial paths, guiding souls through the cycles of life and beyond. It was a testament to humanity's reach for the divine, a symbol of the eternal dance between shadow and light. As the sun climbed higher, Elian stood at the base of the pyramid, feeling the warmth seep into his bones. The stones around him seemed to pulse softly, as if alive with memory and hope. He breathed deeply, carrying within him the silent song of the builders, a melody of patience, endurance, and eternal remembrance. The journey was far from over. The stones still whispered, the desert still held its secrets, and somewhere beyond the veil of waking, the builders waited patiently, silently, eternally. The desert stretched vast and quiet beneath the soft glow of dawn. Elian moved slowly, each footstep gentle against the shifting sands. As the sun's first light kissed the horizon with hues of pink and gold, the air was crisp and still, carrying with it the faint scent of earth warmed by centuries of sun and wind. Around him, the Great Pyramid rose like a timeless sentinel, its ancient stones glowing softly in the morning light. Each block was a silent witness, holding within its weight and texture the echoes of countless days and nights. Elian's breath was steady, calm, a rhythm and harmony with the slow, steady pulse of the desert itself. He thought again of the builders, those patient souls whose hands had shaped the limestone blocks, guided not by haste, but by quiet reverence. Their labor was not merely physical. It was a sacred act, a slow meditation that stretched beyond time. The pyramid was their song, written in stone and silence, a melody carried across millennia. Elian's fingers traced the rough, cool surface of a weathered stone. The texture was both harsh and gentle, a paradox like the desert itself, harsh in its elements, gentle in its endless embrace. He imagined the rhythm of the quarry, the scrape of chisels, the soft thud of stones settling into place, the murmurs of workers singing low songs to soothe aching muscles. And the builder's world was one of patience and persistence. The desert could be cruel, its scorching days and freezing nights demanding endurance. Food and water were precious, yet the workers pressed on, sustained by a quiet faith that their labor was more than effort, it was connection. Each stone placed was a prayer, each layer a testament. Elian's eyes scanned the pyramid's edges, perfect and precise, aligned with the stars and the compass points. The geometry was no accident, but a reflection of cosmic order, a bridge linking earth and sky, mortal and divine. The pyramid was a map, guiding souls through cycles of light and shadow, life and death. As the sun climbed higher, warming the stones beneath his touch, Elian felt the slow unfolding of ancient knowledge secrets, whispered not in words, but in the very structure of the monument. He breathed deeply, feeling himself part of the vast tapestry woven through time and space. The desert wind stirred softly, carrying the scent of lotus and myrrh, aromas that had long since faded from memory, but lingered still in the stones. Elian closed his eyes, listening to the silent song of stone, a melody of endurance, faith, and eternal remembrance. The builders were not forgotten. Their hands and hearts lived on in every block, every shadow, every breath of wind. The pyramid stood as a quiet beacon, a reminder that time itself is shaped not by haste, but by patient, steady steps. Elian's heart swelled with gentle certainty. The journey was ongoing. The stones still held their stories, and beneath the endless desert sky, the slow song of memory rose, softly, eternally. The desert night stretched on like a soft, dark blanket, studded with distant stars, blinking faintly in the quiet sky. Elian sat alone, the warm sand beneath him settling gently as a faint breeze stirred the edges of his cloak. Around him, the Great Pyramid loomed a monument, both immense and intimate, its stones humming softly with the memories of countless ages. The air was thick with stillness, the kind that encourages deep thought and slow breaths. Elian closed his eyes, letting the vast silence settle within, drawing him closer to the slow pulse that connected past and present. He thought again of the builders, those patient hands that had carried and set each heavy block with care, shaping a bridge between worlds. Their labor was slow and steady, marked by perseverance that stretched beyond individual lifetimes, threading one generation to the next like a continuous song. Each stone was a silent word in a poem written across time. Elian imagined a scent of fresh cut limestone mingling with the earthy aroma of crushed herbs used to ease tired muscle, the rough texture of ropes against calloused skin, the muted clatter of wooden sledges sliding over sand, the low murmur of voices sharing songs and prayers beneath the endless sun. The desert around him breathed with those ancient sounds, carried softly on the wind. The builders knew the desert's unforgiving nature. They worked beneath a blazing sun that could blister skin and sap strength. Nights were cold and sharp, the chill seeping into bone. Food was scarce, water precious. Yet they moved forward with quiet faith. Every stone lifted was a heartbeat, a promise that creation outlasts destruction. Elian's hand brushed a limestone block, feeling the cool smoothness beneath his fingertips. He felt the weight of history pressing gently, the echo of countless hands and countless breaths. The pyramid was a monument, yes, but more than that, it was a vessel of memory, a testament to endurance and sacred geometry. Its angles aligned precisely with the stars and compass points, linking the earth below with the heavens above. Inside, chambers arranged to welcome the sun's first light, guiding souls on journeys beyond life and death. The pyramid was a silent map, a bridge of stone connecting mortal and divine. Elian breathed deeply, feeling the desert air fill his lungs, carrying with it the faint scent of myrrh and lotus, ancient perfumes that lingered long after their makers had vanished. The wind stirred softly, and the stones seemed to hum, not with noise, but with presence, a slow, patient song of endurance. memory, and quiet hope. The builders were more than mere mortals. They were keepers of a secret language, a sacred rhythm that wove together breath, stone, and spirit. Each block a note in the eternal symphony. Elian's eyes drifted toward the horizon, where the first faint blush of dawn began to pale the stars. He felt himself part of something vast, a thread woven through endless time. The journey was ongoing. The stones still whispered. The desert held its breath, and the flame of memory burned softly beneath the endless sky. The desert's quietness deepened as the first light of dawn stretched across the horizon, softening shadows and casting a gentle warmth upon the ancient stones. Elian stood still beneath the endless sky, the cool morning air wrapping him like a soft cloak, whispering secrets through the faint rustle of sand. The Great Pyramid rose silently, a monument both monumental and intimate, its limestone blocks glowing faintly with the sun's tentative embrace. Elian's breath matched the slow pulse of the desert, steady and calm, as if he had become one with the rhythm of this timeless place. He reflected once more on the builders, those souls whose hands had shaped history with quiet care. Layer by layer, block by block, they had worked not in haste, but with patience that spanned generations, weaving a connection between earth and stars, body and spirit. Their work was a dance, slow, deliberate, and sacred. Elian imagined the soft scrape of flint against stone, the muted thud as heavy blocks settled into place, the whispered chants that floated on the desert breeze. The scent of dust mixed with crushed herbs lingered in the air, soothing aching muscles and tired bone. The desert had been both harsh master and silent witness to their devotion. The sun climbed steadily, its rays painting the pyramid's surfaces with gold and shadow. Each stone was a testament, not only to human effort, but to a profound understanding of the cosmos, the sacred geometry that bound the earth, stars, and human soul in an eternal embrace. Elian ran his fingers over the cool limestone, feeling the smooth edges worn by time, and the rougher patches where the quarry had left its mark. The pyramid's angles and alignment were deliberate, a map carved in stone guiding souls through cycles of existence. It breached the realms of the mortal and the divine, the seen and unseen. Its chambers held mysteries whispered by light and shadow, inviting those who dared to listen into a sacred journey beyond life and death. Elian inhaled the crisp morning air, tinged faintly with myrrh and lotus, ancient scents carried on the desert wind, lingering like a faint echo of forgotten ritual. The stones around him seemed to pulse softly, alive with memory and quiet hope, singing a slow song of endurance. The builders were more than mere workers. They were guardians of a sacred language, a rhythm that wove breath, stone, and spirit into an eternal song. Each block a note, each layer a verse. As the desert slowly brightened, Elian's gaze lifted to the sky, feeling the vastness enfolding him like a gentle embrace. He was a single thread in a tapestry woven through endless time. The journey stretched onward. The stones continued to whisper. The desert held its breath, and beneath the endless sky, the quiet flame of remembrance burned softly. Eternally, the desert night had deepened into a velvety darkness, draping the world in quiet shadows. Elian stood beneath the vast celestial dome, the stars softly shimmering like distant fires in the cold expanse. The air was cool, carrying the subtle scent of ancient earth and drifting sand, a reminder of the ages long past. Around him, the great pyramid rose like a steadfast guardian, its immense stones absorbing and reflecting the faint moonlight. Each block was a silent witness to time's passage, a memory etched in limestone, waiting patiently to be heard. Elian's breath was slow and even, matching the calm rhythm of the desert night. He thought of the countless hands that had placed each stone with reverence, hands worn rough from labor, yet tender in their intention. The builders had not rushed. They had moved with deliberate care, stone by stone, layer by layer, weaving a testament to endurance and faith. The soft rustle of sand whispered at Elian's feet, a gentle sound that mingled with the distant call of nocturnal creatures. The desert was alive with quiet life, a slow breath that carried stories older than words. He imagined the ancient quarry where the sound of chisels striking stone rang softly in the air. The mingled scents of dust, sweat, and crushed herbs filled the space as workers toiled beneath the sun's relentless gaze. Despite the harshness of their world, the scorching days and freezing nights, the scarcity of food and water, the builders persevered. Their labor was a meditation, a sacred act that reached beyond mere construction. Each stone was placed as a prayer, each layer a slow, steady heartbeat in the vast rhythm of creation. Elian's fingers brushed the cool surface of a weathered block, feeling the roughness shaped by countless years of wind and memory. The pyramid was more than a monument. It was a vessel of ancient knowledge, a map linking earth to sky. Its precise geometry reflected the cosmos itself, a silent guide for souls, navigating the cycles of life and death. He remembered the tales of the Watchers, luminous beings who brought wisdom wrapped in mystery, their teachings veiled in silence, and the Archons, shadows that sought to obscure the light of truth. Yet, beneath layers of silence, the builders had woven a lasting testament. The pyramid was their language, a slow, deliberate song, carved in stone and shadow, a bridge connecting the mortal world to the divine. Elian felt the pulse of this ancient song deep within his bone. The night air was cool and still, wrapping around him like a soft shroud. The desert held its breath, The stones whispered, and the stars gazed down with timeless patience. Alien knew the journey was far from over. The stones still held secrets. The builders still waited silently, patiently, eternally. The desert breathed slowly beneath a vast, starlit sky. The cool night air wrapped around Elian like a soft, familiar shawl. Each grain of sand beneath him was a tiny fragment of memory, shifting quietly with the gentle wind. The Great Pyramid stood nearby, immense and silent, its ancient stones shimmering faintly in the moonlight, holding secrets deep within their time-worn surfaces. Alien's breath was steady and slow, as if sensing with the heartbeat of the desert itself. The night was a quiet companion, inviting him to listen, not just with ears, but with the soul. He thought once more of the builders, those patient souls whose hands had carefully lifted and placed each heavy stone, layer by layer, shaping a monument that reached beyond mere stone. Their work was slow and reverent, a prayer cast in limestone, a hymn written in shadow and light. Each block was more than a piece of rock. It was a thread in the fabric of eternity. Elian imagined the ancient quarry, the soft scrape of chisels against stone, the muffled thud of blocks settling into place, the whispered songs of workers seeking solace beneath the relentless sun. The air there had been thick with dust and sweat, mingling with the faint scent of crushed herbs used to soothe weary muscles. The desert around him still held echoes of those sounds, a quiet, enduring rhythm carried on the breeze. The builders had lived in a harsh world, scorching heat by day, biting cold by night. Food was scarce, water a precious gift, yet they persevered with unwavering faith, knowing their labor was more. It was connection, a bridge between earth and sky, flesh and spirit, moment and eternity. Elian's hand rested lightly on a cool limestone block, its surface worn smooth by centuries of wind and time. He felt the slow pulse beneath, as if the stone remembered the weight of countless hands. The gentle prayers murmured over it. It was a silent guardian of stories, stories etched in the slow turning of seasons and stars. The pyramid was a map, a cosmic design aligned perfectly with the heavens. Its chambers captured the rising sun's first light, guiding souls through the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. It was a bridge not just of stone, but of spirit. Elian breathed deeply, the cool night air tinged faintly with myrrh and lotus scents that lingered from ancient rituals. Carried still on the desert wind, the stones around him seemed to hum softly, alive with memory and quiet hope, a slow song of endurance, faith, and eternal remembrance. The builders were not merely mortals. They were keepers of a sacred language, a rhythm, woven from breath, stone, and spirit. Each block a note, each layer a verse in a silent symphony reaching across time. As the stars wheeled overhead, Elian's eyes lifted to the vastness above, feeling himself a single thread in the endless tapestry of existence. The journey stretched on, quiet and steady. The stones continued to whisper. The desert held its breath, and beneath the endless sky, the flame of memory burned softly, softly, eternally. The desert night had softened into the earliest whispers of dawn. The stars faded gently, their faint light folding away beneath the slow arrival of morning. Elian stood quietly, the cool sand beneath his feet shifting softly with the gentle breeze. The pyramid loomed beside him, vast and still, its stones glowing faintly with the first hints of sunlight. The air was filled with a hushed calm, as if the earth itself were holding its breath, resting in the space between yesterday and today, between past and forever. Elian's heart beat steady, slow and sure, in time with the pulse of the ancient stones. Each limestone block held the weight of countless years, silent witnesses to 1,000 sunsets and dawns, to generations of hands that had shaped and placed them with careful reverence. He traced the rough, cool surface of a stone near his side, feeling the worn edges softened by wind and time. A quiet reminder that even the hardest things yield gently when touched by eternity. For eternity, the builders had been patient not merely in work, but in spirit. They had labored with quiet hope, stone by stone, as if speaking a sacred language that only the earth and stars could understand. Their monument was not a boast of power, but a hymn of endurance, a bridge between the fleeting and the eternal. Elian thought of the long days beneath the blazing sun, the cool nights under a jeweled sky, the scent of crushed herbs soothing tired limbs. He imagined the slow, rhythmic songs sung softly by those ancient hands, melodies woven into the very fabric of the stones. The pyramid was their voice, slow and steady, speaking across time in echoes of shadow and light. The desert around him stirred gently as dawn spread its golden fingers. The warmth touched each stone, bringing to life the silent stories etched deep within. Elian breathed in the crisp morning air, filled faintly with myrrh and lotus, ancient fragrances that lingered still in the heart of this timeless place. The pyramid was more than stone. It was a map, a cosmic design linking earth and sky, mortal and divine. Its chambers welcomed the sun's first light, guiding souls through the sacred cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Elian closed his eyes, feeling the pulse of that eternal rhythm within himself, the steady beat of memory and hope. The builder's song was now his own, a quiet thread woven into the endless tapestry of time. The stones no longer whispered just to him. They sang softly to all who would listen, a lullaby of patience, faith, and eternal remembrance. As the sun rose fully, bathing the desert in warm, golden light, Elian felt a gentle peace settle over him. The journey through stone and silence had reached its quiet end, but the story would live on in the slow turning of stars, in the soft wind over sand, in the hearts of those who remember. The final stone was laid, the silence was eternal, and beneath the endless sky, the flame of memory burned softly, softly, forevermore. Thank you for traveling gently through time with us. Sleep well, dear traveler, until the next slow journey.